Hey there friends, welcome back to Chronically Overdressed. I posted a short video the other day of an event that I attended called the Seersucker Social. And one of my lovely followers DM'd me and asked me, how do you find all of these local events near you? She asked if I could possibly put a video together talking about how I find my local vintage communities and all of the different events that I attend. So that is what we are going to do today. So grab your favorite beverage, get cozy, and let's chat about how you can find your vintage community and nearby vintage events. As you may know, I move around quite a bit. It seems like every few years I'm moving to a completely new location. So I kind of have to start all over again, finding and building my local vintage community and learning about any of the events that are going on near me. It can definitely be a struggle, but community in general is very important to me. And finding a local vintage community that not only shares my interests, but also my values means a lot to my well-being. So I take the time and effort to really find and nurture that. I am not going to say that it's easy, trust me, especially if you're someone who maybe is a bit anxious about, meeting new people or putting yourself out there. Making friends as an adult is difficult. I honestly did not realize how difficult it was going to be as an adult making friends. And I've definitely had my share of anxiety-ridden moments. But hopefully some of the tips that we talk about today will kind of open up new opportunities for you. And so you can find your people in your local areas who share your values, your passion, and interests of the vintage lifestyle. I wish that there was an online database of, vintage communities and events around the world that we could all easily access. But sadly, there isn't, at least that I know of. The closest thing to that is Facebook. I know a lot of people don't care for Facebook, and trust me, I totally understand. If Facebook is not your thing, I get it. But I personally couldn't live without it. Between the various groups that I'm a part of, and just the simple connection of people that I've met over, the last 10 years that I've been doing social media, Facebook is just an invaluable resource for me. My first suggestion is to look for just general vintage fashion and lifestyle groups. This is going to be a wider net of people from all over the world usually, but it's really great knowing that at least you're going into this group knowing that you have a shared interest. I'm the admin of a couple of Facebook groups myself. I have a general fashion group, and then I have my vintage hairstyling group. But I'm a member of several other groups. I'll list a few of them here for you, and I will also put links to them in the description if you want to check them out yourself. Some are more active than others, and sometimes they're based in a particular country. But I do find that, there's a wide range of people from all over the world in these groups. They're a great resource for meeting other vintage enthusiasts, and also learning about events that, may be coming up that maybe you want to travel to, or they may actually be in your general area. You can always use these generalized Facebook groups to then find some localized vintage groups in your area, or just simply do a search in the group section and you never know what you may find. So many people have created local vintage groups all around the world. And a lot of them do create a specific Facebook group so they can help connect. I know at times that it can feel like we may be the only person in our town that is a vintage enthusiast. And I mean, sometimes that may be the case. But I can tell you from experience that even in my tiny little village in Germany, I found other vintage enthusiasts who were just waiting to connect and just, have amazing vintage experiences together. Now that I live in the DC area, I am so fortunate to be a part of the Monumental Retro group. It is a fabulous group of vintage enthusiasts, both men and women, and there just always seems to be some sort of event going on. Everyone is encouraged to host an event themselves if they wish, or just share an event that they've heard about that's going on in the local area. Even if it's just a simple, happy hour get together, or, going to the flea market together. It's just so nice to have a group of vintage enthusiasts that are in your area that you can do fun things with. So try searching the group tabs on Facebook, and obviously be sure to put in your city, or maybe the closest large town that you're near, and then add general search terms like vintage or pinup or historical, or if you're into rockabilly. You can even get more into the specific eras, so mid-century modern or Art Deco. And if you're not finding a local group that's already established, why not create one yourself? Doing a regular hashtag search on your favorite social media platform can be a great way to not only find, just new people that you may want to follow, but also possibly groups or events going on near you. And of course, following your favorite vintage influencers, and reach out to us for suggestions. I've had many people send me messages asking if I know of any events or anything going on in their town. And I've learned so much. I've learned about so many groups through Instagram and events from my followers, and I'm always happy to pass that along to anybody. And we really should be using each other as resources as much as we can. Okay, so I am going to do a shameless plug of my Patreon page. So my goal as a content creator is really to create a community, somewhere that we can share our love of vintage and history and really learn from each other and establish lasting connections. And one of the ways that I nurture that is through my Patreon. I have 3 tiers to choose from, each with their own benefits. But my most popular tier is the New Look tier. So in addition to getting all of the benefits from the previous tiers, including an exclusive Facebook group just for my patrons, I get to spend time with my New Look members once a month via Zoom for fun and educational meetups. Sometimes I'll do hair tutorials, sometimes we'll just chat about, different fashions, or I'll share how I color coordinate or accessorize my outfits. Whatever the topic is, we have a really great time, and I really enjoy spending time with my patrons. And of course, they are helping me to support my endeavors. So if you would also like to support me and join my community, then head over to patreon.com/theglambassador. I'll also put a link in the description for you. Another option to look up is meetup.com. I've used this site just about every new place that I've moved to, and it's been pretty helpful. You can search for very specific interests that you're looking for, or you can just find groups that, want to go to brunch or try new restaurants, or even just find people to go to the movies or go to the museums with. Even if it's not specifically vintage, you can probably find some kind of vintage adjacent things. I know that there's knitting groups on there, crocheting, needlework. You can go to museums, historical events. So even if it's not specifically vintage, you may even find someone who is a vintage enthusiast in these kind of vintage adjacent groups. All right, so where do we find vintage events that we may want to go to? So I'm sure most of us know of the large vintage festivals and events that go on all over the world. You got Viva Las Vegas, the Art Deco or the Jazz Age Lawn Party. There's a couple of Art Deco things on the East Coast. The Avalon Ball in Catalina Island in California. In the UK, you've got Twinwood and Goodwood Revival and, Rockabilly Rave. You've got all these big kind of festivals. And I think most of us know what's going on with those, but it is a little bit harder sometimes to find the local ones that we don't necessarily have to travel to. So all of the previous suggestions of, finding those vintage communities that you want to be a part of can definitely lead you to finding out about more local vintage events. But I do have some specific suggestions to finding events that are more local to you, or at least close enough that, you might want to travel to for a long weekend. I've joined the Art Deco societies in California and also here in Washington, D.C. And through them, I have found some amazing events. Some the actual societies themselves put them on, and others they may just be a sponsor of, or they're just, happy to promote some local events that are nearby. Connecting with local historical societies are not only a great way to obviously learn more about the history of maybe your city, your area. And in the case of the Art Deco Society, learning more about the architecture of the area. But a lot of times they add fashion into these, some of the events and maybe lectures that they do as well. I've learned about and attended so many great events, like architecture walking tours and fashion shows and just historical lectures through the Art Deco Society of DC. Even if you don't actually join the society itself, although I do encourage you to do so, join their mailing list because they're always going to give you information about events that are coming up. Getting down to the basics, just doing a search online for things like vintage car shows or historical reenactments in your area. There's a great website called livinghistoryarchive.com, and I'm going to link to it in my description for you. They do have a whole section on there just for World War II reenactments in the United States. But the site itself under events has events in France, in the UK, so you can find different kinds of living history events or reenactments all over the world. And going back to Facebook, just checking the events section on Facebook can really provide some great information about local events to you. So all you have to do is, type in your city name and, you can put in keywords like vintage or car show or whatever. Play around with it and see what you can find. But usually there's a lot of events that are going on that you may not have heard of. You can also check websites like Eventbrite. Even if it's a free event, sometimes they'll put an event on there just so they can see how many people are planning to attend. But same thing, do your search parameters, wherever your city is, what kind of interest you're looking for, and you may be able to find different events that way. Whenever you're shopping at a flea market or a vintage or antique shop, always check the bulletin boards. There are flyers on there and pamphlets, and generally there's some information about events coming up. They may not always be specific vintage events, but you just never know. And I always think it's a good idea to talk to the vendors, find out what other events. There may be a pop-up event, another vintage, clothing pop-up, or just other events that they know about that even if they're not vending there, they are also a really great resource for different kinds of events. Honestly, most of us don't think about going to our local visitor center because we live there. But I'm kind of a big advocate of sometimes being a tourist in the place that I live. Check out the visitor center and peruse the brochures and the pamphlets. And sometimes they also have a, local bulletin board of events that might be going on, and talk to the people there. Tell them what you're interested in. They are really knowledgeable and can point you in the right direction of, if they don't have the specific information, they might be able to point you in the right direction of where you might find that information. Seriously though, you never know. When you start putting it out to the world, it's astonishing what comes back to you. Well, I hope that this was helpful for you, and now you have some more ideas on, how to find your community and events near you. And if you have suggestions, please feel free to comment below. I am always happy to hear about new ways to, to find a community, to nurture that community and find events near you. And I will make a promise to you that I will be a lot more vocal about events that I hear about. I will put it out on social media and also my Patreon, so you may be able to find an event that you can attend. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you again very soon. Bye.